Alright, so today we're going to be repairing one of my old amps I had in my car. It's a Hifonics H5 1500D. It's a Class D amplifier. Supposedly runs 1500 watts at 1 ohm. The birth sheet of this amp said like 1602 and 14.4 volts. It was kind of my start into car audio. I researched so much on it and to make sure I had the perfect one for my subwoofers. I think I paid like 40 bucks for this on Craigslist junior year of high school. But well, as right now it's blown. One of the things that it powers on, it gets the green light. The Hifonics logo glows blue. It just doesn't output any sound. So we're just gonna dive in and see what we find out about it as we get inside of it more. Even in high school, I was thinking about proper safety. I put these rubber mats on. I think they're for like plumbing or something. I forget exactly what they're for, but I super glued those on for vibration. Use my handy dandy magnetic mat. Forgot I took it apart a while ago, but I don't remember for what exactly for. That's why the warranty stickers are destroyed. The guts of it. Pretty nicely laid out board. Got some nice capacitors. Obviously we have the relay there. It's nice solid. I don't know what that'd be, 8 or 6 gauge or 8 gauge. Definitely not 4 gauge wire right there. Nice power rails here. But I think we're just gonna have to dive in a little deeper to really get to see what the problem of this board was. Now I know in this style of board they use mechanical retention, but it's not screws. It's kind of these like leverage things. I just use whatever. I don't even know what this is. I don't even know where I got it from. It just ends up working because I've repaired amps before, and this is what I usually do. I just torque them up until they come out. I know it's not the right way to do it, but it works. Oh, you guys missed all the fun wrenching of it. These things are a pain to get out. Oh, they come out. Now these are just what pretty much forces the transistors closer to the metal casing for better thermal efficiency. And these just running black wires. They're probably just for the front LED. So I'm just remove these out right now. And we'll begin taking, I guess, the screws out of the motherboard. I haven't really ever fully taken this all the way apart, so kind of learning as I go with this one. I really like this amp. It powered two 12-inch Orions, and I was pushing a little over 15 volts to them at the peak. You know, I did the big 3 upgrade. Had a couple car batteries in there. So it's not like this amp just gave out. It was reliable for, lasted me for 4 years. I mean, you really can't beat that out of a amp I got off Craigslist for 40 bucks. Oh, finally got that one out. It was a nightmare. I had to use some pliers to pull it out. But as I'm looking, I believe I've got all the actual circuit board ones. Now, if I remember correctly, we got to take all these outside ones off. We'll just take everyone off for good measure, because I don't fully know which ones, but let's take them all off.
Take a closer look inside what's causing this. So one of those beauty plates is on. I thought this whole plate came off with it, but I was obviously incorrect. Take off the fuse block also. Beautiful. The other side. I can't remember exactly. I believe that the highest push I had was 147 dB on the Term Lab. I remember I went to one of those decibel drag races. I can't really remember. And but on the Orion's, I think it was just under 3 cubic foot box, ported. It was ported to like 32 hertz. I don't remember the exact specs. I mean, this was a while ago when I did this. I was still in high school now. Now I just kind of went more into sound quality
than sheer loudness. But I do sort of miss having the 212s pound in the trunk. Seeing the circuit board, it looks like it should just slide out in here. Awesome. Huh. So here's the actual board, and these two wires were just a little light on it. These are just rubbers with thermal grease on it. I don't understand why they would put these on here, because I think that would just hold in more heat than just going straight to the metal. Now let's just try to figure out what the actual problem is. I know on these amps a lot of times there could be an issue with capacitors blowing out. When you see these little X's on top, if they look like a dome, they're pushed out. That's usually the clear signal that those are like pretty much just blown. And usually I've had to repair relays before, but I know this relay is good because like when you turn on the car, I could hear it clicking on, so I know that relay is good. So I'm probably gonna say it's more likely one of these transistors. These resistors over here look good, and I know I remember I think I replaced these. I don't know if I did that, but they definitely look replaced. I don't know if I did that, but they look fine. These transistors look fine. I'm pretty sure I just found out what it is. If you can see where the darkening of the actual PCB board is, that's usually a clear indication that these overheated and burned up. Some of those resistors look a little brown too. We'll definitely check on those, see what the actual problem is. If I can see these, they're all ST, that's a semiconductor company. So we have with the NJ and the 3055T and the P55N060. Those are usually, I'll probably replace this whole bank, because usually if one goes bad, it's just safe to say that all of them are going to be in pretty awful condition. So we have MOSFETs and NPN transistors here that we will be replacing for it. Let me get the multimeter out just to check if these resistors are bad also. Yellow, purple, black, or I guess the correct term would be violet. So that's yellow, violet, black. 47 ohms is the nominal resistance with gold, so plus or minus 5%. This one's good. 46.3. 45.2. Good. Yeah, good. So it'll probably be a better idea to replace these resistors, but I'm more or less just trying to see if we can get this back and running. So for sure, all 5 of these transistors here need to be replaced. And looking at the bottom of the board, we can see a little bit more of it. All this silver is pretty much just etched piece. It's the etched PCB, and they put the solder on there so they have more current carrying capabilities. So, well, we see where we're gonna have to do it. We're just gonna have to desolder these up right now. So I'll pop out the soldering iron. So I have them laid out right here from which ones are getting replaced. So we have a P55NF06. This one are the same, and in between are the MJE3055T. So these two right here are NPN transistors, and these 3 out here are MOSFETs. I'm just pretty much these are like banks, and I'm just gonna a couple of these are bad. I'm just gonna replace them all just to be safe. As you saw a little bit earlier, we measured the resistance of these resistors. It's not the most accurate, but it still shows that they're not burned out and they're giving us the right impedance. So what I do typically is, because all this metal back here is pretty much a heat sink for these, and it makes them rather hard to desolder, so I usually just cut them off. It's gonna make desoldering a lot easier. Nice. So I will be desoldering the ones closest to me. Gotta get rid of all these ones, throw them away. No. So. Here's all of them, and you can see that there's 4 connections. The farthest to the left is to the resistor, then 3 is the actual either NPN transistor or the MOSFET. So I'm just gonna get this properly tinned before. This is a little cheap Radio Shack desoldering iron. It's not the best one. It's gonna be a little hard to desolder them all, but we'll be able to do it. Gonna put it on here, get it nice and hot, and then do it. Perfect, this one. So now that I sucked it up and it has no solder, it's gonna make it a little bit harder. So I'm actually gonna use a desoldering iron to solder on more solder. Added some more to it, and now it's gonna make it a little bit easier to desolder. Now, as you can see, we have 2 perfectly clear holes. Now I gotta get this last lead out. So it didn't work, so I'll reflow on some more solder. In order to desolder, you need solder. And perfect. Now as you can see, that's not a perfectly clear hole, but I got one of the legs off of them. I guess that would be the MOSFET out, so I could just put it back on here. And yeah, I'm just trying to clean the hole out. You don't want to leave it on too long, because you'll end up ripping out the pad if it gets too hot. And nope, or oh, the lead or leg didn't come out. And it's out. Now it's perfect. So it's good, and we'll move on.
Now that every solder is lead free, it makes them a lot harder to desolder. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start because this is I'll start refilling it with more solder. Just gonna make it a little easier.
Awesome. So I just got all the MOSFETs and NPN transistors desoldered out. Right now I'm going to take one of the loop off of my helping hands and just make sure I don't have any bridged pads. It was a bit tricky to take them out. I found out taking out the legs that we cut made it a lot simpler, and it doesn't look like there's any bridge pad. So what I usually like to do after I desolder some, take one and just make sure it could all go in, because you don't want to try to force one in there. Good, 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 and they all go smoothly. This one had a bit of resistance, but it's nothing major. So we're gonna now, if we look back at the top, you can clearly see where the burn mark was of the ones that got fried. So it was clearly obvious that the NPN transistors were fried, but the MOSFETs are right next to it, and I thought it'd just be a better idea to just replace it all now. So what I'm going to do is just put them all in their place for right now. We'll be flipping the board back over because I'm going to be soldering from the bottom up. Sometimes you gotta wiggle it in there, see how it fits, but got it. Nice. Let's flip the board back over. It's no big deal. Just push it back on and just bend a couple of the legs just so I have some hold them in while I'm getting ready to work on it. Nice. I bent the leads just so I can have some holding it in. I'll turn on my Haiku soldering iron. One thing I would strongly advise is have a decent desoldering iron and a good soldering iron. Having a crappy one's only going to make it worse. Where is all my soldering? Oh, it's right here. So I have my Haiku on. This is my desoldering. I have a crappy desoldering. It just makes it so much harder than it needs to be. I will just get rid of this for right now. We don't need this. So I got my Haiku on. Get a nice tin. So now I want to straighten the legs back out. And get this set in a pretty good spot. Then I'll just lightly solder one of these up. Just to hold it in spot. And I'll get ready to solder them into their place. I rose the temperature up a little bit. I feel like it was just a little bit too low. I had a 450 Fahrenheit, and I just rose it up to 500. Because it's this heat, it heat sinks it away so nicely. That's better. Now it's going nicely. So I had it low because I'm usually doing really fine soldering, and there's not a lot of heat sinking to it, so you could get away with a lower temperature. It's nice, and this is the last lead.
So when it comes to soldering, I'm nice low and slow. This is the way you're going to get it done. I'm not in any rush to solder them on here because that's the way you're going to pull off pads. Not good. Probably has to increase the temperature a little bit still. I'll go to 530. Because I had it set for when I was soldering up for my little portable gaming laptop, and that I was able to get away with 450 there. But this is just a little bit too big of a pad. There's a little bit too much thermal mass here for that low of temperature. Awesome. We should start being able to move a little bit quicker now. I'll give it time to heat up, and that's more like it. That's a good temperature right there. Yep. Now we're flowing. These ones a little bit harder because they have all solder that takes them to it, which this following this looks like to be the ground, but these other leads are just incredibly easy. Just one. Whoop. I'll be slow, nice and slow with it. Be quicker. That way I won't bridge any gaps. Anything just good, a good little pace. Nice. Let's get this a little bit more aligned. I like that there. Perfect. Perfect. You don't want to add too much solder here because too much could be bad. It makes for a weaker joint. This one needs a little bit more. Beautiful. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Awesome. I noticed one that it's a little bit slightly bridged over here. Turn it off so it can cool down to now. Yeah, awesome. Should be good now. Just gonna get the siding iron between them.
Awesome. So I just put the circuit board back into the metal housing, and right now what I'm gonna do is put some thermal grease, thermal paste, whatever you want to call it, behind all the transistors, just so it can dissipate some of the heat better. Too much is also bad. You want just the right amount, because too much, then you're going to eventually just start holding in the heat. They should ask, Microsoft on Xbox 360 is about thermal efficiency. That's what plagued the early generations of the Xbox 360s. It was their GPUs, their ball, because they're all ball joint or ball soldering. They used it. I don't know the proper BGA or whatever it's called, but and they would actually the chip would get so hot it would melt the solder up and it would bridge and ended up plaguing the Xbox 360 with the 3 rings of death, the 3 red rings of death. Awesome. So put a little dab behind each one, and I will start placing back in their little metal housing things, and when I get back to it, we'll have it all wired and tested up. Well, I saved you guys the expense of watching me just put everything back together. It was just simply, I put all the clips in for the transistors and that after I applied the thermal grease to it, and just wired it all and pretty much put it back together and wired it all together. So I have it hooked up to a 12-volt source, hooked up to an 8-ohm speaker. This is literally just strictly for testing. It's not like I'm gonna really see how efficiently it works. This is the way I used to do. I used to test amplifiers when I was purchasing them. If it was not hooked up to the car and I couldn't fully hear it, just to make sure like it worked and something. So this is not the best test for it, but it's something just to see if what we did actually worked for it. So it did turn on, but like I said, the blue light was there. But what the main issue was it was never outputting any audio. So I turned the gain all the way down. Everything's at the absolute minimum, just because it's only hooked up to a 12-volt source, and I think it limits at 3 amps. So this is strictly for testing, no other reason. We'll just hook it up to my phone. Like, this is the direct hooked up. No. Well, that's what happens when you don't have a high to low filter to it. Well, I guess we heard it works. It's not converted from a high frequency to low frequency. This is directly hooked up to the amp, and this is meant for low frequency. So I had a screwdriver somewhere, but it works. It's nice.